Hey guys, welcome to the Wild Bit Show. I'm Upamanyu,
And I'm Meghna.
and we have got a great show planned for you. We are talking about Asiatic lions today and how their population is stranded on a single corner in India. And there's people who are trying to save them and their plight for the future. Um, there is the issue of Facebook and wildlife trade again. I think we have talked about this before in a past episode where Facebook was being used in such a manner. So another article has surfaced this week again. So we will be talking about that, and this time it seems more serious, and it has some quantifiable dollar numbers and dollar values, etc. So we'll talk about that. There is also on the positive side of things, there is a story of success in terms of regulations and reducing um, forever chemicals. We will see talk about that, and of course, people who follow the natural world will be aware of David Attenborough for sure. He completed 100 years on this planet this week, so we will spend some time discussing his life story as well. What else do we have, Meghna?
Yeah, those are some really interesting stories. I'm sorry, I'm on the podcast, but still, that it's so interesting to hear. And we have also how scientists are racing to study Amazon's frogs before they disappear. So the way and the rate that Amazon is disappearing, the frogs are going to disappear along with the rainforest. We're also going to be talking about how elephants, after they've returned to Zambia, where they were relocated to, communities are adapting to coexistence. There's a lot of human animal conflict, and we've spoken about human animal conflict, especially elephants, a lot
Hmm.
of times before this. But we're going to see how Zambia is adapting or how it's not adapting. And like, oops, I don't have a third happy story. It actually is that there are dangerous arsenic levels that have been detected in Thailand's Mekong mainstream for the first time. And anyone who's been to Thailand, the Mekong Delta and the Mekong River, they're all very touristy hotspots as well. Apart from this, we're going to cover some short stories if we have time.
Mm. Right. Why don't we jump straight into what is the headline topic of today? This is about the Asiatic lions of Gujarat. This is a story from National Geographic, and it's headlined Can the Last Asiatic Lions be saved? Or can India's last lions be saved? Decades after nearly going extinct, the world's only Asiatic lion population is now overrunning its small reserve in Western India, posing complex next level conservation challenges. Extraordinary efforts, backed by substantial government funding, boosted their numbers to 891 by the 2025 census, a remarkable recovery from just a handful of individuals a century ago. However, this success approximately means approximately 44% of lions now live outside protected areas, encroaching upon villages and cities. This leads to conflicts, including predation on livestock and rarely attacks on humans. The articles also talks about the intensive care for these animals, exemplified by an injured lion treated at a specialized hospital after a territorial fight. While their comeback is celebrated, managing a large carnivore in the world's most populous country remains immensely complicated. Now, I think I have spoken about the inbreeding and the problems of it. Many a times we have spoken about that. So, probably, Meghna, for the people who are joining this episode for the first time, maybe you can give them a brief. overview of the situation in Gujarat?
Yeah, so basically with the lions, now India is a really, really, what do you say, blessed in terms of wildlife. Like, it has a
Mm-hmm.
lot of wildlife. We have the tigers, we have the the leopards. Now we have cheetahs as well because we brought them.
Mm-hmm.
But we have a lot of big cats, and lions were almost going extinct, just like how the tiger numbers had dropped. Now the thing was, once the lion program was successful and there were a lot of lions, they were initially just in Gujarat because that is where probably they were dwindling from, and then the population started growing. But after a while, the lion population started soaring more than they could stay in Gujarat. But because they became like the pride of Gujarat, like especially when it becomes a pride for someone, then the government and the locals, they were not okay with translocating them or letting them go to other parts of India. So the lions weirdly stay in only one corner, while the tigers and the leopards and the not the cheetahs, but the tigers and the leopards can roam all over the country. But the lions are not allowed to. So they're essentially in a huge, huge, huge zoo. And because of that, there are too many lions, which means there's a lot of inbreeding. In any kind of cats, you need movement. You need movement.
Mm-hmm.
You have territorial fights. There's an alpha, and that is how the entire breeding system works. The groups are separated. So if there is no separation of the groups, there's a lot of inbreeding that happens. And like any dogs that we know of, any cats that we know of, any species that we know of, inbreeding always leads to issues. And this is what is happening with Gujarat. And still, despite 44% of these lions not being in protected areas because there's too many lions, there is still a very, very active opposition against relocating them, which is, I don't know, I cannot understand it. And lions stay in packs, like they have they have a group, so they need like the entire group to be relocated together as well if that happens. But I think relocation is really the essence of time here, right? Oops.
Mm, I think that is correct. And I don't know, again, I don't know if there is any scientific backing or scientific argument to be made for not relocating them. But I don't think there can be, because I'm just sharing my screen again. National Geographic articles, as people who follow regularly will know, I love them because of their detailed pictures and photographs that they have. But this is a historical map of the Panthera leo, which is the African lion, uh, that lion's range, and you can see, it's spread all across Africa, Eurasia, and Southeast Asia, South Asia. So there was lions all over Africa, but also over the Gulf, the Middle East, and of course, ending in the range ended in India. Now, right now, and I think, again, as species go, as subspecies are created, I think at some point of time these populations started going extinct in the middle. So all that remained was in Africa, and then the lions that remained in the Indian subcontinent, they became a different subspecies. So right now, from their historical range all over India, um, Pakistan, Afghanistan, everywhere, it's just there in this tiny, tiny area. I don't even know people if people can see it. I'll just zoom in a little bit. And sorry, the map is gone. Yeah, so there's this tiny, tiny area where these lions are constricted to as of now. So this is the state of Gujarat in Western India, and there is a small, small, tiny space where they are right now trapped in. I don't know if there's a better word for it. I would use the word trapped. Um, there is a possibility of them spreading across the historical range in India as well. I think one of the reasons also is because there is the Project Tiger. is one of the world's most celebrated success stories, and definitely one of the most India's most proud moments. Bringing the tigers back from you know the brink. I think there is a strong political sentiment there as well, where people do not want to I jeopardize the success of Project Tiger with introducing lions, because obviously, if both the big cats are there in the same space, although historically that was the case, at least in some areas, they probably don't want to make that or introduce that again. Um, yeah, I maybe that might be a reason.
Yeah, I don't know where the actual pushback is coming from, but also one of the weirdest things is that now these lions are actively being interfered with. Like if there's a
Mm,
territorial fight, the lion is being taken to a veterinary hospital and is being
mm,
put under observation and is being nursed back to health and then being released back into the jungle. And with tigers, we don't do that. Or with leopards, we
mm,
don't do that. Like if there is a territorial fight inside the jungle, and a tiger loses its life, everyone is sad about it. But that is how the life is going on. But with Gujarat, there's so many lions in the public eye, and there's so much activity happening that people can actually interfere. If there's like an injured lion, they can take the lion to the hospital, and that is also problematic in my eye.
um, true. That is true. I think there is a big drive for tourism as well. So, his photograph from the article, there is a big drive for tourism, and there is a lot of money to be made from that, um, tourism that happens in the Gir National Park. So that's also is a is a very potent political reason, I would say, not to allow expansion of these lions ranges. um Apart from that, I think also we must talk about, like, historically, during the age before the British colonization, during the Mughal periods, and after during the British colonization as well. Um, I think there was a huge, penchant of the uh, kings and elites to actually hunt these beasts. So that is one of the most biggest contributing factors to their, you know, decimation. I also found this idea of them encroaching on our villages and cities interesting. Um, that problem could be easily solved by allowing their range to be expanded, right?
Yes, of course. I mean, there's in fact a part in this article. It says in 2013, the Indian Supreme Court mandated urgent steps to relocate a pride. Officials, following the recommendation of wildlife biologist Ravi Chellam, identified an area in Kuno National Park. So in 2013, also, Kuno was thriving. Kuno is now used for cheetahs, if you know.
Hmm.
Um, and as the ideal spot. So it was in the neighboring state of Madhya Pradesh. To make way for the lions, the state government moved 24 villages out of the park. Now, again, in India, it's a huge country with a lot of people. A lot of people still stay inside forests. So these forests, sometimes are reserve forests, they're not completely national parks, they're not protected areas. So the villages are deep inside the forest and they coexist with these animals. So the 24 villages were moved out, which means that the people were relocated for the lions to be relocated. But still,
Mm.
a pride never settled there. Instead, the state government rehabilitated them to Barda Wildlife Sanctuary, which was 90 miles from Gir. And it was not far enough. It was not a good idea, but this must have happened because there was a lot of, like how Oops put it, it's either political pressure or it's just that pride of having lions in that one state and having that one moment that okay, these are ours. But I think it's really bad for the lions because in a few years back, I remember there was a whole um, canine distemper case, which was spread by dogs.
Mm.
And this is a problem that is across India because stray dogs carry diseases, and sometimes stray dogs come in contact with wild animals, and these wild animals stay inside forests, so they do not have the same kind of immunity that the stray dogs have. So when they come into contact and they spread diseases, the wild animals succumb to it. So 23 lions died because of it in 2018, and that was a wake up call. And still, the Indian government decided that even though the Supreme Court decided, the local governments and whatever politics goes around this, they did not relocate the lions. And even though that was a wake up call, because apparently in 1994, the same virus, a canine distemper virus, killed 1,000 lions in Africa's Serengeti ecosystem.
So this is the problem. Again, we have spoken about this before, but this is the problem with inbreeding. The gene pool becomes quite shrunk, and that leads to basically one strain of one disease can basically decimate the entire population of a species. Or it's not just a problem in lions, but it's a problem in any species, including humans. Nature has devised ways of avoiding inbreeding, where adult males are often, in the case of lions, males are often ousted from the prides, and these adult males go and form their new prides, or form their new join a new pride, or form their own prides, and so on and so forth. Now, this can only happen if there is a sufficiently large range for them to move through, and a sufficiently large gene pool to begin with. Um, in a small area, in a small sort of s- island of almost, it's a virtual island, one could say, where the lions cannot get out of. Even though it is a big area, there is only so much that these animals can do in terms of expanding their prides and ranges. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly feel like it's that time where one, you have a success story. It's different when when you really work towards increasing an animal's population, which has happened. But after that, you have to kind of let them have their own space and let them do their own thing. And lions and tigers and leopards all have huge ranges. And generally with what happens with the subadult males is that at least with lions they're packs, but even with tigers, like once they leave their mom to let's say 2 years, then they start finding their territories. And all the cats are extremely territorial. Like you would have probably seen them with with your home as well. They're extremely territorial. They need a space. They mark their space. All of that happens. So when you don't give them that space, then there's a lot of fighting as well. And the lions that have to go to other spaces and establish their territory, then form packs there, that cannot happen because that's not being allowed to happen. And in a lot of fenced areas, even like private parks, like like how there are a lot in South Africa, this has been noted. Like a lot of inbreeding is noted, a lot of distress is noted in these animals because they're not allowed to move.
Mm. Yeah. So the discussion question we have for here, and I think we have discussed these points already, but conservation has succeeded. Now, how do we sustainably manage thriving lion population amidst human proximity? And the answer to that, we have, as we discussed, is very simple. Where scientists have multiple times and at multiple points in time suggested that they be relocated. It doesn't have to be, you know super fast or something like that. It could be somewhere nearby, then expanding them further and further and further, and it could even be planned as such where they do not come into contact with the territories where tigers are there, at least for the initial 10, 15, 20 years of the relocation project or whatever. um, and then slowly they are introduced to the idea of coexisting with another big cat. um, and that would be interesting. That would be interesting. I think that would drive a lot of tourism. That would be another conservation success story as well. Yeah.
And I think that is needed because the human animal conflict part of it is also very disturbing because the more the lions are obviously they're really, really craving to expand their territories. So there were people who were already coexisting with these lions for a long time now. There are some 4,300 semi nomadic Maldhari herders who live inside the adjoining sanctuary, and they are used to lions. They know the patterns, they know the behavior. So they've been coexisting. But now lions are getting into new territories, and people
Mhm.
who haven't lived with them have to now live with them. So they don't have the same tolerance. They don't have the same caution. They don't know what to do exactly. So with that, there are more and more attacks on humans, which used to not happen earlier because the humans that used to be in contact with the lions were humans that knew exactly what to do at that time. So this is also a problem that's happening with the lions in Gir, where the human animal conflict side of it is increasing because territorial disputes are increasing. So there has to be an active program to relocate these lions instead of trying to keep them in one place, making them susceptible not just to inbreeding diseases but also to other diseases like canine distemper. Um, and apart from the Gujarat problem of lions, if people didn't know, the entire MGM, you know how we see that MGM logo with the lion roaring, this was actually a lion strapped to a what do you say, to an MRI machine kind of thing, like that kind of a bed. A lion was strapped on it, and then they filmed the lion for the facial expression part, and they actually used a tiger's roar and a lion's face. So if you ever go to see lions, do hear them roar, and you would be very surprised. They're actually quite cute, and the roaring is quite cute, and you would be really surprised, and you'd be really shocked that that's how lions roar, and it's not the type that they show with the tigers.
Yeah. So this is a quick video to sort of punctuate this topic and end it there. This is just a cute, uh, newborn baby finding its way into the world in Gir National Park. And yeah, of course, this is a success story, as Meghna said, bringing these lands back from near extinction. But of course, now the next steps need to be taken to make sure these lands can survive into the future. Um, so that's mother and child there. Right. Um, I
Yeah,
think.
I guess we will keep you updated
Mm,
if at all things are allowed to be relocated. Then that
mm,
is another success story that we would probably be talking about. For now, I think we have more pressing topics that we need to also
yeah.
discuss.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to the next topic, um, that is also a topic. Um, I will actually cover this one first because that's also on human animal um,
Mm,
coexistence and conflict. As elephants return in eastern Zambia, communities adapt to coexistence. 4 years ago, over 200 elephants were relocated to Malawi's Kasumu National Park, bordering three Zambian farming districts. These elephants regularly cross into farms, destroying crops, raiding granaries, and endangering local communities. Amidst deep skepticism, conservationists and wildlife officials are actively working with locals to transform this conflict into coexistence. A striking example occurred 2 years ago when 23-year-old Edward Kumwenda's home in eastern Zambia was invaded by elephants. They pulled down his thatch roof and part of a brick wall, stealing 9 bags of maize, his family's crucial annual food supply. Kumvenda remained silent until his siblings lit a fire, driving the herd away. This incident starkly highlights the severe human elephant conflict arising from the park's open border and the urgent need for sustainable strategies that prioritize both wildlife and community well being. And our discussion question on this is, why are relocation projects not planned keeping in mind the possibility of human wildlife conflict? When we were actually putting this article in also, we were like, okay, the elephants were relocated. Great. But why are they relocated in such a way that there's an open border? These elephants can get into human territories and can raid all these farms. Why is
Mm.
there no moat? Why is there no preparation? Why is there no fence? Why is there not anything that is bordering or creating a border between people and the elephants?
Yeah, because I think when we were scripting as well, like we discussed this. This is a deliberate, like relocation means it's a deliberate thing, right? So that means that when you approved this relocation, when the authorities or whoever is responsible approved this relocation, they would have to had gone through a huge round of planning and making sure all the transportations of these elephants are carried on in a safe and secure manner and those kinds of things. So if those things were planned, I think that plan could have easily included, you know, the conflict side of things, the um, how these elephants will react to the new areas, and those sort of those sorts of areas. So
Yeah,
I don't
I mean,
know,
I
like going by history as well, like every introduction or every relocation has not gone according to plan. Like more often than not, it has not gone according to plan. So again, I don't know if their plan included this possibility, but you know, um, yeah, it should have been definitely a crucial part of this relocation.
absolutely, because I feel like when something is done by us, then we need to take into consideration what consequences it can lead to. And this is something that I think as humans we don't usually, even with innovations, even with anything that we do, we think about the short term effects of it or the short term
Hmm.
benefits of it, but we don't think about the long term consequences or the long term problems that can be there from something like this. And human elephant conflict is something that's well known across places, even in India and even in a lot of places, like not just elephants but any animal that feeds on crops and like on agricultural produce. They find that way tastier than the leaves that they get in the forest. It's just like
Hmm.
us, like home food versus restaurant food, or
Hmm.
healthy food versus unhealthy food. So we
Hmm.
are also people who would prefer the unhealthy food. We would prefer the junk, and this is probably what junk is to the elephants. A lot of times elephants also raid crops that have like raid farms that have jackfruits and bananas because they're tasty, they're sweet. So it is something which is drawing the elephants. So it's not like there's anything inside the forest that they don't have in terms of nutrition. They have everything, but it's just the craving because they're introduced or they get a taste of something that's unhealthy and feels so good. And in that case, then the responsibility kind of lies on us how we can um, restrict these wild animals from coming into our areas. And one of the ways is the moat, the other way is to get a fence. The third way is, if that doesn't work, I think we had talked about, I think even like I once talked about how if you plant chia seeds, and the chia seeds plants are all across the border of your farm, elephants get deterred. They don't like the
Hmm.
chia seed plants for some reason. So there are a lot of ways where deterrence can happen, but all those ways need to come into effect.
Yeah, I think that that is correct. And like there might be an argument for, like, these areas were historically elephant ranges, and um these elephant ranges were displaced by these farmers or whoever's living there, and the people that are living there. So there can be an argument for that, and I agree with that argument. There is the historical ranges, and I think this article also makes that argument where um, Miombo Forest was displaced by farmland in eastern Zambia wildlife corridor. That is an argument that can be made and has been made, but where I think what I think that argument does not capture is that this deliberate plan to move or relocate elephants to an area where these things are already in effect, like in Malawi or wherever these elephants were relocated. The scientists or the advisors working for this relocation project had to have known that these are the issues, like the farmlands displacement and the farmlands encroachment of wildlife corridors and things like that. They would have had to have known these issues were there, and still they chose that particular site to relocate to. um, I again don't know if that was the only option, but I doubt that would could have been the only option available to relocate these 200 elephants. So a little bit of a better planning, or I think even in the humans part, if that was in fact the last option, then steps could have been taken to move those humans, like in the previous article, Madhya Pradesh did move 20 villages altogether, relocated them, so that those kinds of steps could have been taken before moving these elephants.
Yeah, definitely. Plus, I think, one of the things is, so for almost 50 years, the elephants have not been here. So the last time the elephants actually roamed these areas was 50 years ago. And back then it was a very different area, like, so the humans did not stay there, and they had it was like a mosaic of Mayombo woodland and seasonal wetlands known as dambos, forming an unbroken corridor between Kasungu and Zambia's Lukususi and Luambe National Park. So back then there was a whole corridor, and that's probably the same corridor that the elephants are trying to access at this point of time because there's no border. But today that link has been fractured, and there is hardly any woodland remaining. It's been replaced by a patchwork of sunflower, tobacco, maize, and groundnut fields that have spread steadily. So, which is because of this, there has been a huge land change. It is still the elephant's corridor, but at the same time, it is not the elephant's corridor anymore because it was what the elephants were not used to. And because they've not been here for 50 years, uh, that change of corridor can be used now because they might not be used to using the same chain
Hmm.
now what elephants 50 years ago used, and all of that needs to be taken into account. I'm going to quickly once share the article so I can show you guys the pictures from this article. um, so this is a local Zambian family with their crop in the background. um, This is Edward Kumvenda, whose house was broken into and the maze was stolen. So this is how the houses look there, and the elephants had come in and stolen. This is an elephant in the village crops of Malawi. So the elephant is right here in the middle of the crops, and then there are boards like this saying high human elephant interaction area. And elephants are dangerous animals. All of these boards have been put in. There's a whole survey because this farmers maize crop has been treated by elephants. Um, these are all the women of the primary response teams who alert the villagers if the elephants are approaching. So they are the main people who do all the alerts. Um, and this is the changing timeline of the change from now, from 1989 to now, of how uh, development or civilization, or what do you say, land grabbing, however we would like to call it. But things always
Mm,
keep changing in terms of national parks and areas for the animals. So even if the animals are thriving, they don't have enough space. Um, yeah. So those were the pictures. This is a really cool, I would say, image that they have generated. But I think at this point of time, when the humans are not used to elephants, the humans are not tolerant towards the elephants. There needs to be better measures, both for the people and for the elephants, especially for the elephants. You know, once you introduce these elephants to a new place, you need to make sure that their survival is ensured.
mm, absolutely. I think that is the essence of this thing, and I think as Meghna pointed out through the pictures as well, like you know the rangers there and the forest part of the department, forest departments there, they are working with villagers to in terms of now they are there now, they're here, the elephants are here, and that means they're there to stay, and the people are there to stay as well. So there is some skepticism, but I believe the conservationists and the officials, um, and the people also will find a way, and I hope that they will find a way to sort of coexist together. There has been a numerous instances or numerous examples of successful coexistence, especially from India, um, and I believe that the same outcome can be achieved here as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, another story that we'll keep you updated on. One where the first story was where they were not ready to relocate, and the second is they relocated and have problems. So kind of like a chain.
Yeah,
But yeah, if we have updates on either of the stories, you guys know that we will always bring them up on the show, and we'll keep you updated.
cool. Um, s- the next one is again something that we have spoken about before, um, about Facebook and these other social media organization kind of acting as a middleman and kind of giving a very easy to use and very accessible platform for illegal wildlife trade to take root and sort of expand from there. This article contains some solid numbers and is backed by some investigations as well. Now, this article is titled "Facebook is a hub for illegal wildlife trade, and that's by design," report says. Online sales of wildlife products from protected species are booming, with Facebook serving as a dominant platform. A recent report revealed Facebook hosted over three-fourths of 22,000 wildlife animal sales and parts between April 2004 and March 2026. 2024, April 2024 and March 2026, valued at $65 million. So this is a huge operation and huge industry. A staggering 84% of these items are prohibited from commercial cross border trade under international treaties, with over half being endangered or critically endangered species. Experts emphasize that the ease, anonymity, and convenience of online platforms have transformed Facebook into the world's largest wildlife market, surpassing physical locations. This shift mirrors broader global economic trends but poses significant challenges for prosecuting and the well connected criminal networks involved. The illicit industry, profiting from dwindling species, continues to expand, making enforcement difficult as researchers analyze data from 10 countries. Now, again, we had a talk while we were scripting as well. Um, and it's really heartbreaking to see the actual posts that you can see on Facebook with such big like numbers and things like that. So you know the the lemurs and you know all these exotic animals, $2,100. Wow. um
I think you'll have to once give a background of why this is okay and why there are no actions being taken against Facebook, or why there are no strict legal binding against searching or removing, or you told me this when we were scripting.
mm. I think the discussion question for us when we were scripting was, should Facebook be held accountable for booming illegal online sales of endangered wildlife products? Now, this is a very unique situation that Facebook and other um, internet companies find themselves in. Very unique and very advantageous to them. There is a law that these companies lobbied to get passed by the Congress in the United States, as most of these companies are headquartered in the United States. This law is the Article 213, and this law basically exempts. It's a 26-word long law, uh, and those 26 words are the most important 26 words. Uh, some people say of you know of the entire internet, because uh, you know because that means, so Article 213 basically um, goes and says, basically covers, is um, yeah, so basically this, you know that particular law, what it covers is that these internet companies cannot be held accountable, for anything that they publish on their platform. So that means they are just acting as a middleman, and they are not the publishers of whatever is there on that platform. Now, you know traditional media like newspapers or magazines or anything like that, traditional media, anything they publish, they can be held accountable, and they can be sued in case of what they publish is defamatory, like is clearly wrong, and they knew this thing was wrong, and they even, so they decided to publish it. So Facebook basically cannot be held accountable for that under the current laws. And that basically means that all these things Facebook can profit from, and still nobody can hold them accountable, because Facebook actually profits from, you know, their algorithms are actively promoting these kinds of posts and medias and misinformation and things like that, all these illegal illicit things, and they profit by getting all the ad revenue from those from those promotions and boosts. Their algorithm actually prefers to promote these kinds of illegal and misinformative things, or pieces where their you know their profits just keep on increasing. And there has been the huge whistleblower documentation that has come out in the recent years, where it has it has revealed that the top brass of Facebook and such media companies, the top till the CEO level, people are aware of this, and people are actually deliberately pushing for these algorithms to become more and more uh, advanced, so that these kinds of things can be pushed more and more and more onto people.
Yeah, I still don't understand though. I mean, like, why can't that law be reversed, or why can't that law be changed, or why can't there be a new law that overrides that law so that there is more protection for these wild animals and these illegal sales that are going on. I mean, Facebook is a very public platform. I understand that you cannot really like dig through deep, the dark web and try to find websites where all of this is
Mm, yeah,
happening. That is
exactly,
difficult.
exactly.
That is difficult. But Facebook is something that's on a lot of people's phones even now. It's obviously dropped over the years because there are other platforms that have overtaken, like Instagram. But but still, like, there has to be a better way of dealing with this, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think that is also the point of this article. I think this summary says that um, the ease, anonymity, and convenience of online platforms have transformed Facebook into the world's largest wildlife market. And this is a big statement, world's largest wildlife market. And that is because, for all of the reasons that you say, it is a public platform. It is very easy to use. Actually, it's meant to be easy. It's meant to be user friendly, and all those things. So I think that is the you know that is the thing which drives Facebook to become this kind of a platform. And while that law can be repealed and that law can be amended, the thing is, these companies are multi-billion-dollar companies, and they hold a lot of say or sway in the government and how decisions are made.
Yeah, but
And
I think there has to be some kind of a, what would you say, like, even if they have decisions or they have sway on the government, this is something that Facebook can take, or any other platform like this can take initiative themselves, that we do not want these kind of posts. Now it actually depends, like, there are governments across the world that can not just tell Facebook but a lot of other platforms as well, that take this post down because this is not something that we're okay with. So the governments can impose if they want to impose. The problem is here the government is not ready to impose, and neither is Facebook having the conscience to change such a thing. And this is all illegal wildlife trade, not even legal wildlife trade that we're talking about. Like,
yeah,
22,000 wild animals were sold between April 24 and March 26. And these are wild animals that we're talking about. So they're not animals that are supposed to be away from the forest. They're not animals that are supposed to be pets. And they're definitely not animals that are supposed to be sold so that, they can be skinned or their nails can be taken or whatever. Like, I mean, this is already, this is almost like open poaching, if at all. So there has to be a better law. And this, I mean, we're sitting in 2026. It's a digital life, and we still cannot enforce things even though it makes you angry, which is probably the more helpless part of all of this. That there is just so much more that goes in the favor of people who want to do the dirty work and who want to do all these the illegal work, than the people who actually want to do the good work.
yeah. So I just wanted to share the Wikipedia article for section 230. So these are the words. These are basically the 26 words that all people, working against this and working to correct this record actually despise and hate. No provider or user of an interactive computer service shall be treated as the publisher or speaker of any information provided by another information content provider. So these 26 words basically exempt all internet companies based in the US, according to US law, exempt all the internet companies. They exempt all the internet companies from ever being liable for anything that they publish on their platform, benefiting from it, and being sued to spread lies and spread illegal things. So, um, one of the things I think for the people listening to us from the United States obviously can do is there are sort of NGOs and organizations that are working to get this law repealed from the constitution. And one of the most powerful things you can do is basically talk to your senator, talk to your representative to voice your opinions on this particular section, the section 230, the infamous section 230. And yeah, just be that person, because these platforms have no checks and balances there. They spread misinformation, they spread lies, and they spread illegal things like this. And they cannot be held accountable, although they deliberately and deliberately target vulnerable and susceptible people with their with these kinds of, they identify, their algorithms are so powerful that they identify these kinds of content, and they serve it to the people that are most susceptible and vulnerable to consume that content.
Yeah, and the sad part is like this is animals right now. You do not know when it will come to humans. You do not know what else can, work and be okay on Facebook because
it
if they
is it
have
is
no.
already coming to humans. I think the organizations that are working to repealing this law is obviously, no doubt they're working because there it has come to humans, because there, one of the common examples given is videos and content about anorexia and eating disorders. Are these algorithm target young teenage girls for these kinds of content?
No, I'm not.
uh,
I'm not talking about things like that. I'm not talking about what
mm,
content is being pushed, but I'm talking about if
right.
there is a wildlife trade of sale of animals. You do not know the next thing is, illegal
Right,
sale of
I get it.
humans. I mean,
Right.
you can just disguise it as something else, call it something else, put up a post, and then actually run a whole human trafficking system also. Because who is there to stop it if there's the whole wildlife trafficking system going on? The next big thing would be that, and probably then there might be steps taken, but right now it's because it's the animals, no one cares.
Mm, mm. So I think this because of this, because of this section 230, it's very difficult for us, for very difficult for anybody actually, to hold these companies liable. And I think this is something that definitely these companies should be held accountable for. That is my opinion here, especially Facebook, but
All of
all
them
such
should be, yeah.
companies.
All
Yeah.
such companies, everyone should be held accountable. There should be punishments for the ones who are posting and for Facebook, and the
Mm,
government needs to be stricter in these things. The only way that you can ever solve a root cause problem is go to the root and remove it from the root. And from here, Facebook is the root. So you have to make the policies more stringent, and you have to also make the policies more stringent about who you can allow on Facebook and who you cannot. How you have a rights of admission reserved in a restaurant, it should be the same with Facebook, that this person's posting this, there has to be like a red flagging kind of system for
Mm,
posts for people. And even if they enter with other names, there should be like automatic blocking, like how now phone calls alert you that this is a spam call. So there
mm.
has to be a way to alert people on Facebook as well if this is a scam post, if this is not a great post, if Facebook should automatically keep removing these people. Obviously, Facebook wouldn't, but the government needs to really, really wake up on this. Obviously, at this point of time, I don't have a lot of hope from the US government because they're more interested in fighting wars. But hopefully, when there is a president who really cares about the wildlife, then we can see some real changes.
Right, right. And I think expecting illegal things not to be present on this platform is just a bare minimum, right?
Yeah.
Like, uh,
Absolutely. I mean, this is a platform that even kids can access. So, the
yes.
kind of exposure that you are exposing them to, you have to be very sure. Like, I mean, even if Facebook and all these apps have like a 13-year, I think, restriction, um,
Mm.
they're still kids. They're still young. And the kind of things that they're exposed to here is not great. Even on that note, there should be government action.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, so we will keep you posted. Again, these are all stories that we sort of can foresee uh, them there being follow-ups and things like that, or similar kinds of stories popping up until it's too much. So yeah, we will keep an eye on this as well and inform you if anything else comes to our attention. But yeah, that's what we had to say about this particular topic. We can probably move on to the next one.
Yeah. Um, the next topic is the first one that we had spoken about.
Hmm.
So, scientists race to study the Amazon's frogs before they disappear. The Amazon basin harbors the world's highest amphibian diversity, with an estimated 1,525 species, yet only 810 have been formally described. This rich biodiversity faces severe threats from climate change and human activities, including pesticide exposure and rising temperatures, which alter tadpole development. Scientists fear many species could go extinct before they're even discovered.
Wow.
Scientists fear many species. Oh, I'm just reading that again. Biologist Igor Kafer from the Federal University of Amazonas illustrates the challenging fieldwork involved in finding new species. Researchers often identify novel amphibians by their distinct croaks in remote, dense forest environments, wearing protective gear against insects. Kafer, who helped describe the tiny camouflaged Amazon Frenelium bilinguus notes that discovering new species is a common occurrence during inventories in the Amazon, underscoring the vast unknown within this critical ecosystem's amphibian populations. And I think it's not just the frogs, but a lot of things in the Amazon will probably go undiscovered and they'll probably go extinct at the way and the speed that the people are making inroads into the Amazon as well. Oops has mentioned that I think a lot of times that the Amazon is the lungs of the earth, but we do not want to actually save anything that gives us life. Like we don't want to save the Amazon, we don't want to save the ocean, we don't want to save anything that gives us life. Like all we want to do is care about other humans, care about development, care about having a better lifestyle, but we don't care about actually having a better planet.
Mm, Sometimes I wish the consequences was like how popularly we say instance karma, like that. Everything, if it was like an instant karma that you do this and you instantly get the result. Sometimes I feel like that would have been the better way for us to uh, evolve as a species, because obviously there are some flaws there. It might not have started off as deliberate things, but certainly in the last, after the last industrial age, or industrial revolution, um, things are quite deliberate. We are choosing every day, um, you know, the humans over every other animal, which is fair, but I think, um, we must, as a species with conscience and as a species who can understand the plight of other animals, um, we must take that action. Um, yeah, must take that action. I think the discussion question here, that Meghna said, was quite potent as well. Like, when lost species vanish before scientists can even discover or describe them, what's lost at that point? Yeah, it's like, we are, as humans, are always so concerned about leaving a mark or leaving a legacy behind. But these species are dying without anyone even, knowing them and seeing them. I don't know. It feels very sad to me.
Yeah, and it's not just the frogs. Like I said, it's going to be a lot of species. I'm just going to share my screen really quickly, so that I can show you the article. So this is one of the frogs from the Amazon. Really cute looking. I mean, very shiny, very glossy. And
Very
this
colorful as well.
yeah, this is a biologist researching for tadpoles in a puddle in the Amazon. This is a species that was discovered only in 2024. Um, it's called Neblina Ryan Emery. If I got that wrong, I'm sorry. But somehow it looks like a pregnant frog. Like, I mean, obviously frogs don't work that way, but still, very different. Also looks like a red potato. And then this is another frog, which is gorgeous. I mean, look at the color difference between its body and
Hmm.
its legs and arms. This is an adult female of the species Ranitomea atheria, from another basin in the Amazon, that was discovered in 2023. So there are a lot of frogs that still need to be discovered. And this is a risk of where people, I mean, where frogs are going to be extinct from or are going to be disappearing from because of rising risks or rising aridity, which means there is a lot of arid spaces and frogs need water to survive. They're obviously amphibians, so they need more water to survive. They can be on land, and these are all the areas with the red markers where it is. And South America in particular is extrememe red in this case. So yeah, more species of frogs. Um, these are called the harlequin toads. Again, endemic to the Amazon. So there are a lot of species that have been discovered, a lot of other species that are waiting to be discovered. And sadly, we don't know if we're going to see more of these beautiful, beautiful frogs. Because at the end of the day, if we're going to cut down the Amazon, we're going to cut down on everything. We're going to make sure that there are more and more. There's more and more global warming and climate change, then I don't know how many of these specialized species, such as frogs, have a chance. And for people who obviously do not know, when you build these cities, when you develop towns and cities, the first thing that actually disappears are specialized animals. So when people cry about, oh my
Hmm.
God, there's so many cockroaches are pests, that's because the frogs and the snakes have disappeared. The
Hmm.
main animals that used to feast on these cockroaches have disappeared. So the cockroaches are multiplied because there are no predators. Now, cockroaches are not, specialized animals that need a particular environment. They can like survive anywhere, which is why they say that that cockroaches would survive a nuclear blast. But that is the issue. So if you did not want the cockroaches, if you did not want the mosquitoes, the frogs were your friends. Like even
Hmm.
when you go inside jungle, when you go inside any jungle, you don't talk about, oh, how many cockroaches there are or how many mosquitoes there are, because there's a balance, and this balance is going out of place because of the development. And honestly, I think when we were smaller, we could actually see frogs. That is also getting lesser and lesser as the days go.
Hmm. Yeah, I think there's a lot of wildlife in the urban spaces when we were children and we were growing up. I remember having jackals and vultures around the place that I grew up in. At night you could hear the howling of golden jackals and things like that. So, yeah, I think urban spaces um, could be a place for coexistence with animals. I certainly know of places that have successfully brought this in and have successfully made sure that these coexistences happen. But I think the run or the race for development and the race for being economical powerhouses and things like that, economical dominance, all these things prevent us from caring about these kinds of more
Yeah.
smaller species, and especially like amphibians, which are like so small, you can almost like you know um, crush them with your car or with your feet, and never know. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've gone to a whole different tangent from the animals we used to see, um, and away from the Amazon, and going from the frogs coming into your car. But yeah, but the whole point is that these frogs, not just frogs, but a lot of animals are at risk. A lot of undiscovered animals are at risk. A lot of discovered animals are at risk. A lot of animals are at risk over land, underwater. And even if the scientists are racing to study all of them, there is no way to know how many species we're actually losing every day. And the IUCN keeps updating the levels of endangerment and how critically they're endangered. I do not know what the solution for this in the short term or the long term is. The only solution I can see is that as a human race, we have to come together, stop fighting, and start working towards the environment. Like all of us need to keep the environment and wildlife in first position. I understand it's not something that everyone can do, which is fine. You know, people are just trying to survive. Survive, it's different. But a lot of things that we do is unnecessary. A lot of all of the development that's happening, almost 70% of it is unnecessary.
Mm, yeah, correct. Um, yeah, I think those issues. I often find this. So I'll ask that question of you and for anybody listening. I often find challenge in doing this, but day to day, we are so sort of engulfed in our day to day life. It often becomes difficult to relate to these problems like what's happening in the Amazon. uh, b- it often never crosses our minds even. So I
Yeah,
don't
I
know
think
how to reconcile that fact in the minds of everyday people like me. Yeah.
that's the problem with the ocean as well, right? It's because people don't really get into the ocean. People don't really look under the ocean. People don't really care that much that the ocean's giving you 50 to 51% of the oxygen that you breathe, which is why when species go extinct from the ocean or there's overfishing and overtrawling, a lot of people don't care because they cannot relate to the ocean. And it's a
Hmm.
similar thing with the Amazon, that there is lesser relatability only because of the fact that it's inaccessible, but people know that it is remote, it is it is dense, it is one of the richest biodiverse places on this planet. And I think there is no other way to make people more aware than maybe not everybody's obviously privileged enough to go do a tour in the Amazons and actually know how great it is. But it is a just general awareness thing that we know that the Amazon are the lungs, the ocean are the lungs, that all these forested areas are what is keeping us alive, and that awareness should be enough for us to start actually helping and going. Now again, it's the same thing, I think, was how Oop said, that there has to be like instant karma, and without instant karma, There's no way, like, once the Amazon is completely depleted, probably when we start dying, when we have way too many diseases, we don't have oxygen to breathe, uh, that will be the time that we actually regret something, and sadly that'll be too late.
Mm, yeah. I think one of the things that we could do, I guess, is obviously because a lot of this Amazon, the cutting down of Amazon is used for, um, ranching and also like soy farming. I feel like so that which is used to feed the cows and things like that. So going the vegan route a little bit, as far as possible. Like if you eat meat 7 days a week, mm, eat 6 days. Start with 6 days, 6 days a week or something like that. I think that also can make a difference there.
Wow,
Maybe
so I'm really proud of you.
maybe do
uh,
not drink soy milk also. I don't know.
no, actually, the waste from the soy is the one that goes into it. A lot of 80% of the soy that is grown across the world is used for the animals
But the
feed.
problem is all the soy is grown in that Amazon basin.
Yeah, so
A lot
but
of the
it's
soy
grown.
is
It's
grown in that Amazon
Yeah,
basin.
but it's grown for all the animals across the world. So if the animals are reduced, then the soy production would reduce. That is how it works. It's not the humans demanding the soy; it's the animals demanding the soy, or the humans handling the animals are demanding the soy. So the soy isn't the
Mm.
problem; it's the humans that are the problem, because there are too many humans, and too many humans want meat on their plate. And with the growing purchasing power parity that humans have, because you know how people are developing, how across, when we were younger, there was probably like, it was a big deal to be on a flight, like, oh my god, I went on a flight, and everybody would ask, oh,
Mm.
how was the flight, this and that. Now it's very normal for a person to be on a flight, so like people have that kind of purchasing power parity. And with that growing access, what is happening is more and more people want more exotic meats, more exotic food, more exotic things, and that greed
And that
is where,
lifestyle.
yeah, that kind
And
of
that
lifestyle.
lifestyle.
So that is where the problem is coming. When we were younger, probably people were very careful about what they ate, when they ate, how they ate. Now that's not there. So that is also
Mm.
one of the problems, which is creating this rift. But yeah, I mean the only way we can do something about this is if we do a collective effort. There is no oh, the government should do this, and oh, the people should do this. This has to be a collective effort. We've said this earlier, we're saying this now. The planet is burning, the planet is dying, and we need to protect it.
Right. Right. So speaking of that, I shall move on to one of the more celebratory news from the natural world and conservation, celebrating the life of someone, the life story of someone who just turned 100 years old, David Attenborough. People who are listening to this podcast and people associated with the natural world definitely would have heard his name. So we wanted to cover this article, maybe talk about it a little bit of our experiences, but quite shortly. This is an article from the Smithsonian Magazine, and it just says David Attenborough has inspired countless scientists to mark his 100th birthday. Here are 10 living things that are named after him. So, obviously, David Attenborough, for anyone who does not know, is a broadcaster and a presenter for the BBC, and he does natural history programs on nature shows since the 50s, and it has been an illustrious career over 50 years that he has had. So
More than 50. I
this
think it was 75, because I think he was in his 20s when he started going to Africa and the other places across,
right
I think even Amazon
70
and
years.
other places. He
Yeah,
used to actually, he started off by being like, not a, I don't know, would you call it a naturalist? But for the
yeah,
London Zoo,
naturalist.
for the London Zoo. He used to go and trap live animals from the wild and bring them all the way from these other countries to the London Zoo. So I have a very, I don't know, it was a little controversial though. That you go into. He's had amazing experiences, but obviously you grab a wild animal and bring it back and put it in a zoo. It's very controversial that way.
Yeah, no, I think that was the times then, but I think since then, obviously the times have evolved, and those things are no longer considered, mainstream or areas of study and things like that. But we'll just quickly go through all the species that are named after David Attenborough. So 10 species basically. So a parasitic fungus. This is named after David Attenborough. So Gibuella attenboroughi. So this is a parasitic fungus. For anyone who has watched Planet Earth 2, will know that how these fungi can invade insect's body and just grow from within the insect. So that is the image that can be seen here. A spider covered in a zombifying fungus, which looks like whitish fuzz. So that's the first one. This is the second one. It's a fossil bird, Impravis attenboroughi. Uh, Imparavis attenboroughi. This is a fossil bird, and this is obviously a fossil, a prehistoric bird. And this fossil bird was unlike many others that lived during its time. It lacked teeth. That is very interesting. That is very interesting. Um, so this would be the how the Imperavis Attenborough would have looked. This is the small illustration. I'll just open it up. Yeah, this looks like a modern bird, and yeah, lacks teeth. Yeah, maybe this was the turning point of birds sort of becoming done from dinosaurs becoming more of the birds that we know today. But this is the bird. There's a marine worm that is named after David Attenborough. So Marphiza David Attenborough. So the iridescent marine worm lives sediment near southeast Australia. Very iridescent. Yes, you can see all the rainbow colors across its body. Beautiful picture as well. Uh, this is an orchard that is named after David Attenborough, which is Lepanthus attenboroughi. Um, you know, these two orchards were long thought to be one species, but an investigation into their structures revealed major differences. The one on the right is L. attenboroughi. This one on the right, L. attenboroughi, Lepanthus attenboroughi. Very cool. The next one is I don't know how to pronounce this, but it's Sindarian, Snidarian, I don't know, or Nidarian. It could also be. The C is silent. Could be. So Aurora lumina attenboroughi. So a cast of the first discovered fossil of Aurora lumina attenboroughi. The Sindarian was an ancient predatory animal related to the modern day jellyfish, corals, and sea anemones. So, again, I think another marine um, organism. This is Edinburgh from one of the nature programs. There's a phytoplankton, um, Syracosphaera azure planta. I don't know. Where's the David Attenborough in this name? I don't know. Um, mm, mm, mm,
I
mm.
think it's just that people are inspired by him, so something that was inspired.
Could be. Yeah, could be. Um, yeah, looks like a cool phytoplankton, and um, this is the fossilized crustacean, Castellus ravitis. So this is again another one that might have been inspired by his works. There's a butterfly, you pitch, you Eutychia. I am choosing to make this P silent, so I'm pronouncing it as Eutychia Attenborough. And yeah, beautiful butterfly. And I think this is the last one, the Echidna, the Zaglosis Attenborough. Attenborough's long beaked echidna was thought to be possibly extinct until an expedition team captured the first footage of the animal with camera traps in 2023. So that's the
You
echidna
know, there is one more.
there. Oh, there's a plesiosaur, sorry, Attenborosaurus conibeari. Again, a fossilized plesiosaur there. So, yeah, those are the 10 species named after or attributed to David Attenborough. What a life it has been. And he still continues to work in that industry and inspire many young people. I think he's one of those figures who is liked across generations, be it boomers or the Gen Alphas. So, yeah, very, very inspiring, definitely, and very, very cool.
Yep. Um, so should we move on to the next one?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. So mm, going to cover one of the last topics that I had talked about. Dangerous arsenic levels detected in
Mm.
Thailand's Mekong mainstream for the first time. Thai authorities have detected dangerous arsenic contamination in sediment from the Mekong River mainstream and three northern tributaries. Tests by the Pollution Control Department revealed concentration of 73 to 296 milligram per kilogram in the Mekong, far exceeding the 33 milligram per kilogram danger threshold for aquatic life, with tributaries up to 57 milligram per kilogram. This marks the first mainstream detection. The pollution is linked to unregulated rare earth mining upstream in Myanmar's Shan state. Experts warn these toxic heavy metals threaten aquatic ecosystems, fisheries, and millions of livelihoods dependent on the Mekong basin, indicating a spreading crisis. And And a discussion question on this is that how should nations balance rare earth mining with protecting vital transboundary rivers and the livelihoods of millions? Um, Now, I think one of the main issues is that here in this article is that the effects of the mining that is happening in Myanmar is showing up in Vietnam. So it's not even the same country. So it's not something that Vietnam can actively take any you know effects, or the government can stop some kind of mining. The government can make a change so that the Mekong can be clean. And the Mekong is a huge delta. It even goes, I think, all the way up to it contact I think it connects Myanmar and then Vietnam. I'm not sure if it goes into Cambodia, but the Mekong is a huge tourism hub as well, and it is one of the biggest hubs for fishing. And how it says, it has a lot of people are dependent on the Mekong. And sadly, if the mining is causing this problem, there has to be a better way. I don't know how you can regulate the mining of rare earth minerals, but it should probably be very far off from where humans stay. And secondly, it should not go into runoff. So it has to be away from the river. So wherever you're mining, there has to be some way or some more regulations regarding how you mine for these minerals. Also, there should be probably like a limit on how much you can mine. There should be a way of recycling what has already been mined than to keep mining mindlessly.
Yeah, I think that is one of the things that I was thinking about actually. Like, we make these things, we make these technology, and that is just junk. And although this is a livelihoods that are being spoken about, what about the the animals that are living in that Mekong River? I don't know. Do you know, Meghna, if rivers and ecosystems are treated as sacred as is in India, as in Thailand?
I'm not sure if it's the same kind of um, status or symbol or reverence as it is in India.
Mm,
But obviously, the Mekong is very popular. It is also something which is huge. So a lot of people are dependent on it. So that is there, but I'm not sure if there is like a religious and cultural significance and that reverence that is associated with people in India and the rivers.
mm,
But even if
mm,
that reverence exists, it hardly makes a difference. I mean, even with the reverence, people actually pollute the rivers all the time. Because of the reverence, they pollute the rivers even more.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, no, that is true. That is true. But yeah, I was just wondering if there is such a reverence there as well. But yeah, whether there is or not, this is something that is immensely important because the mining will continue. So making sure that the mining runoffs and the harmful chemicals um, do not reach the human settlements, that is definitely there, but also they do not reach the first things that are affected are the animals and the fish that are living in this river. There's a Mekong river dolphin as well. You might be aware of that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's the problem. Like when there are these huge, when the levels are this huge in the arsenic levels, then it's obviously very harmful for the animals, especially the fish that are staying, because they are being poisoned and they have to live with that poison. But also the humans that are consuming it, then they're consuming the arsenic inside the fish directly. So it's actually like a chain. So it's really bad for everyone, like the environment, the fish, the humans. So there's no one actually benefiting from this mining and the rundown that is happening into these rivers.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think the crux of the matter is that it has to be uh, reduce, and recycle. Again, it's a bit cliche, but that is what that has to be done. The reduce, reuse, and recycle, you know,
Yeah, and I
chain.
think more countries need to be accountable to each other if there is like a massive runoff, like in this case from Myanmar all the way to Vietnam, and then it might affect other countries like Laos, Cambodia, Thailand. So there has to be a better way of regulation when it comes to mining. There has to be like cross border and cross country discussions when something like this happen. And as someone who is into wildlife and who cares about the environment, it gets really sad because you always have to hear about such kind of news where places are being poisoned or we losing species or all of these kind of things, and you have to kind of live with that news every day. Sometimes I wonder
Mm.
how much change Attenborough must have seen in his 100 years.
Oh, yeah, that it would have been a very, from the age of steam engines to the age of mobile phones and TikToks and people addicting to it. So yeah, I think that is the crux of the matter. We must, because this is our only home. Even though billionaires keep talking about settling or colonizing other planets in our galaxy or in our solar system, um, this is our only home. Maybe those billionaires will be able to go live there, maybe 100 years, 200 years down the line, but we are stuck here for better or for worse with Mother Earth, and we are happy to be stuck here. So I think it's impending on us that we take care of our home.
Yeah,
It's incumbent
true.
on us.
uh Yeah, and let's see, and we'll keep you again updated on this story as well. If there is any regulations or any policies or any kind of protection, and if the Mekong Delta is actually healing, if the levels decrease. We're talking about, I think, chemical levels and decreasing. I think you have a story on it.
Mm, mm, mm. Actually, I'm trying to find that. This is a good story to end our episode on, I guess. So this is a story from The Guardian, and it says sharp drop in forever chemicals in seabird eggs hailed as win for regulation. So there is a better way, as is clearly shown here. A new study reveals a significant drop in forever chemicals, PFAS, in northern gannet eggs on Canada's Bonaventure Island, North America's largest colony. Over a 55-year period, dangerous PFAS compounds fell by up to 74%. That is a huge number there, hailed as a major win for environment regulation. Concentrations initially rose from the 1960s to the late 1990s, reaching potentially harmful levels for the birds. Before declining sharply, this decrease aligns with key regulatory developments. Chemical giant 3M began phasing out PFOs, and by 2015, major manufacturers agreed that with the US EPA to eliminate PFOs and PFOS. Um,
Ecotoxic.
Ecotoxicologist Raphael Lavo called the findings good news, confirming regulations' positive impact. PFAs linked to health issues like cancer and thyroid disease are persistent chemicals, making this reduction a crucial environment victory. So, with this story, it is clearly being shown that this is not rocket science, this is not something that is unachievable, as we often tend to think. This is very doable and very reachable within our hands reach, only if we put in that effort.
And I think also it shows about, how nature is resilient. So
Hmm.
these gannets had these forever chemicals, they were living with these forever chemicals, and now they're still resilient, and now they're living better without these forever chemicals in their eggs. So it shows that if we show a little bit of concern and care for nature, if we pull back our greed, if we pull back our pollution, then they do survive and they will survive.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree with that. um
And the
Nature, I
and the
think.
thing is, with these forever chemicals, even with rare earth mining and all of this, all of these have a direct impact on humans or indirect impact on humans. Because in either way, like how we consume everything that is in the environment, be it the plants that have all these pesticides and different chemicals, or be it the animals that have been fed injections, or consume these chemicals, then everything's going back into our body, be it microplastics, be it these chemicals. And at the end of the day, if it is going into our body, then it is impacting the humans. The only problem is that it's not happening at the speed of COVID. People are not just dying left, right, center. So we don't take these steps very proactively. But in this case, it's showing that if we are actually proactive in any area, then there is like then there's like a big change. Obviously, this is a long period study. It's a 55-year period study where the compounds have fallen, and it is a win. And it might be frustrating that it takes that long to see changes, but it is worth the effort to see those changes. If we really, really want to save this planet, if we want to save this planet and leave it for the future generations, then this is the only way we can do it.
I think that is exactly right. And I think 55 years sounds like a long period, but it is within the lifespan of uh, a grown adult, even say. Some as a scientist who might start working in their late 20s or 30s, it is still achievable to see that change within their own lifetime. So, it's with the modern medicine, our human lifespan has definitely increased. So it is achievable within a single generation. So that's the thing Meghna said about nature being resilient. We have seen this time and again, and I think David Attenborough and other conservationists like him have talked about this extensively. That nature is resilient. We have talked about multiple articles like nature thriving in nuclear sites, nature thriving in all these different places, reclaiming all these different places, abandoned places, and things like that. So nature is that resilient, um, and if we give it space, um, and with these examples, we are just trying to highlight that it is possible to keep our space at the same time giving nature space. It is possible. It does not have to be extract. We might have to leave some of the luxuries behind, which are not really that difficult to leave behind, but it is achievable within our lifetimes.
Yeah, I think the thing is that we were not this uh, greedy to begin with. We were better off, but now it's just increasing. We want more and more and more and more, and we don't know where that limit is. There's no limit to it, and hopefully, I mean, stories like this show people that reversing that limit, actually putting a stop, changing things will actually help the environment and wildlife,
Mm,
and in turn, it helps us. Like we have to keep that in mind, that anything that we reverse is actually a benefit for us. It We don't have to see it as a benefit for the earth or for the animals or for wildlife that we never see. You have to see
mm,
it as an indirect and direct benefit for humans. That's the only day that we will start working towards saving this planet.
mm, right. That is a beautiful place to end our episode on, I think. What do you say?
Yeah, I think it's a great place to end it on. We always love ending it on positive stories. Yep. And yeah, as always, we always have a discussion question in the end. um, and in this case, I would want to ask, what do you feel like? Do you ever feel helpless as a human or a wildlife biologist or someone working in wildlife? How does it work? Like, recently I've come across news of people working in the wildlife field actually coming or going through depression and going
Mm.
through a lot of stress because of the changes they're seeing. Um, how does this affect you? What do you do for it? And how do you feel like about everything that we've spoken about today?
Yeah. We would love to hear those things. That's a very important question. I think in the current situation, keeping one's mental health intact is a very, very important and very useful tool to have. So let us know in our comments. Um, we always love to hear those feedback. We've gotten some emails and messages over time, but yeah, definitely leaving comments here and sharing that whatever knowledge you have with the community and with others definitely helps. So does liking this video and subscribing to our channel. It helps out a lot in getting this message as far reaching as possible. We are also on all the major social media platforms, and we go live on all those platforms all at once. So you can follow us anywhere and you'll get all the updates that we post out. And if you're listening to a recorded version of this episode, definitely make sure you share it with your friends and family. And also leave a rating, and make it a point to share it with someone who does not share your views, so that they have a different view to in their repertoire and things like that. So other than that, that's it for today, and we will see you next Sunday, same time, same channel. Have a good one, guys.
Bye bye.